Welcome to Congregation Agudas Yitzchak for the monthly community-wide gatherings. I wanted to give a special thank you to the Shiur for opening its doors. Of course, the Chazak organization, the QJCC, and Chickens for Shabbos. The refreshments that were outside were dedicated in loving memory of Reuven ben Bachmal. Thank you very much to the sponsors. We really appreciate it. Today's event is also dedicated for the Refuah Shlema, the complete recovery of Gitle Bat Dina. Hashem should give her a Refuah Shlema, Meira, Amen. Our guest lecturer for tonight, for this month, is a renowned lecturer and author. He's no guest to this community. We all know him very well. Please give your undivided attention to Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss.
Okay, first of all, I want to apologize. I didn't leave enough time for what kind of traffic I experienced. What's this stretch of Linden Boulevard? What's that called? Van Wyck just wasn't moving. I'm sorry. I haven't been here in a while, and I really needed to leave more time, so I really terribly apologize. I'll just have to make it a good shiur to make it worth it. That's all. Yeah, no, this was worse. You see, also, Staten Island Expressway, I know tricks, you know. I could get off, I could go around, I don't know any tricks over here. So, I apologize, I really do. It makes me feel very bad to keep people waiting. B'Rishus Rabbi Olbaum, it's nice to be back over here. I want to thank Chazak and QJCC, it's called, Queens Jewish Center, Queens, and then of course Rabbi Newman and Chickens for Shabbos. So we want to thank all of them. And let's learn for a little girl, 17-year-old girl who's starting a new experimental treatment. She has a rare cancer. Kayla Rus Bas Chai Rachel. We should learn that all those that have been touched by the Jed Machla, known as Yana Machla, the related diseases, should have Refuah Shalema B'Sek Shachal Yisroel, and all of us and our loved ones should always be healthy. This is more for the men. Should just give me a minute, even though it's related to the women also. But I've been on a kick lately, trying to encourage people to do the first segula in Shas for Arichas Yomim V'Shana. So anybody who's not interested in living long and having quality life, it's not for you. But if you're into that kind of stuff, everybody looks for segulas. The first segula in Shas, that can't be coincidental. It's obviously it's a very powerful segula that Shas decided it should be the first. And it's within everybody's reach. And that is to be Maver Sedra. Now, Maver Sedra means it takes an hour. You got to give it an hour. It's an hour a week. So you'll say, right, maybe for you. No, for everybody. An hour a week to get a promise from Shas to live long and prosper. Somebody told me that that's a Star Trek statement, live long and prosper, but I made it up on my own, But somebody told me, Rabbi Weiss, that's Star Trek, maybe you shouldn't use it. So I made it on my own. So, okay, so I was Mekadesh to Star Trek. But it means going over the weekly parsha, saying it twice, and saying the Targum, the Onkelos, once. Now, if you don't understand it, do it anyway. Think about what you would do if you knew it would give you Arichas Yomim V'Shana. Now, you have to understand what Arichas Yomim means. Arichas Yomim means that, what does it mean, a long day? A long day means you have enough time to do what you want. You know, we never have time. I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do that. Just never have time. I wanted to take a hot bath, and I wanted to put on the barbecue, and I never have time for anything. I wanted to, they came out, Rabbi Frank came out with a new sefer. I wanted to look at it. I don't have time. I wanted to read the Mishpacha. I bought it. I can't even look at it. Arichas Yomim means that the day is long enough for what you need it. That's a big bracha. And Shani means longevity. Now, it says you should review the parsha twice with the Targum. Now, if something is in a different language, then it only counts if you know what it means. The beauty of Lashon Kodesh, the Bible, and the Targum, which the Gemara Megillah, Onkelos, is also Sinai, and the reason why we attribute it to Onkelos is the Gemara says in Megillah, Shachacham v'chazru v'yizdam, which means that it was forgotten and Onkelos reestablished it, but it was from Sinai. So these holy words mean something and find favor in Hashem's eye, even if we don't understand what it says. He told us, at least I know 1 hour a week I'm doing right. So it's a value. Now, of course, it would be a shame not to know what you're saying. So now we have all kinds of linear chumashim where you start saying, and if you come across a word which you don't know what it means, right, you look at the English. Now, the Onkelos you say, even though you don't know what it means. Okay, so say it. Say it. Saying the parsha twice and the Onkelos once gives longevity. So that's number one. And I will tell you that Rabbi Moshe Feinstein told me he is a very busy man. He's a busy man. He goes sometimes to 10 chasanas a week, Brisson, Levias. He's a very busy man. Parlor meetings, gives shiur in yeshiva, speaks to Bachrim, speaks to Chasanim. He's a very busy man. He says he makes Havdalah, then he opens up a Chumash and he starts being Mavased. Because he wants to make sure he does it. So he asked me Mavased. I'll tell you a Mavased story. I'm related to the Frierdiker Klozmer Rebbe. My father's brother, his son Beryl, my first cousin, married the Frierdiker Klozmer Rebbe's daughter. The Frierdiker Klozmer Rebbe was a hero. He was one of the greatest heroes of the Holocaust. He lost a wife and 11 children. He would go on to marry and build another incredible family. But his first task after he escaped the Holocaust is that his Hasidic heart couldn't take the bodies of Jews strewn across Europe. Couldn't take it. See, if you went to Europe, the Nazis killed the bodies, they left them there, and they were highly contagious. The corpses of the Kedoshim were typhus riddled. So the Klosenberger Rebbe raised a ruckus, and the Germans gave him a battalion, a whole battalion. But the Germans were not allowed to touch the bodies because they were typhus risk. But he gave him a battalion. It became a high priority. He went around with a battalion of Germans. The way my uncle got close to the Klozmer Rebbe, he said, Mila Hashem Eloi, he asked for assistance. And my uncle helped. The Klozmer Rebbe got typhus. My uncle didn't, but the Klozmer Rebbe contracted typhus. And he languished for 3 months in the hospital in Europe till he recovered. It's recorded. I saw it recorded in several svarim. What was he doing during the time he was in the hospital? he was being Mavis Sedra for all the weeks that he missed for the years that he was in the camps. That's what he chose to do. Now, I assure you that the fact that he missed being Mavis Sedra in the camps isn't because he didn't know Torah by heart, because I'm sure he knew Torah by heart. But he didn't do it because his hands weren't clean. His body wasn't clean. He would trade food for water. That's a legend. He would trade food for water, not to drink, but to wash his hands, that he should be able to daven and make brachas. But that's the priority of Mavis Sedra. Now, there's another benefit from this. It's a great benefit. Another benefit. There are loads of people by Kriyas HaTorah in Shul that are in a semi-comatose state during Kriyas HaTorah. And they let their mind wander. It's like a semi-comatose. Then there are other people that concentrate. But you know what they concentrate on? Catching the Balkar at a mistake. They're still not listening to the words. Es, not ace. Ace, va. I don't allow people to correct with an angry voice. I have a standard rule in my shul. You want to correct with an angry voice? Next week you're learning. Gone is the angry voice. What are you angry about? That man stayed up the whole night preparing the seder while you were sleeping. And you're angry at him because he said va instead of va? You have an open chumash. But that's not the point. The point is if you don't prepare ahead of time the parsha, it's very hard to relate to something, especially maybe Breishis Noach is easy, Lech Lecha, but when we get to already Vayetze, and we get to Azinu, and we get to Mitzayra, then you don't know what it means if you didn't review it at all. There's something else. It's a good feeling. You open up the Chumash. It's a good feeling. I'm doing what's right. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And then the children see it. They might first say, what? All of a sudden, what happened? A new thing, a new shtick. But after a while, they'll get a legacy. They'll see Friday night after the meal, well, I didn't finish. I want to finish before tomorrow. Take out that chumash. Now, I said women don't have a mitzvah of Mavis Seder, but it is related to women because women should become partners with their husband to make sure that Mavis Seder is given high priority. Because it's Arichas Yom Mishan for the husband-wife team. Any learning that the husband does is a wife shares 50%. If she's, if you want to be Mavis Seder, we'll wait. I'll give up on this now. We won't go to that store I wanted to go. You need to be Mavis Seder. Give it high priority. And cheer on a husband that doesn't. Okay. Good evening, everybody. How are you? I just had a little tirade over there, but I'm very passionate about it this year. I believe I want people to live long and prosper, Star Trek or not. On that table over there, is there any Coke? Or Pepsi?
Apple juice.
Or cold water? Apple juice?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a healthy crowd. When you come to Rabbi Weiss Shiur, you need all the caffeine you could get. You never know how long he's going to keep you. What time is Shacharis? I'm not giving my daf yomi tonight in Borough Park. I pushed it off, so I got a pinch hitter. So I have all night. Just kidding. Don't worry. Just kidding. Thank you very much. 2 cups. He feels I really need help. Thank you. Thank you very much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvarav.
Some space to
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'nei nefashos. Rabbi Svichasenu Malka Mashbara Salachas B'em Nefesh Kol Chai Baruch Elamim. Okay, now, the privilege of learning the Torah again. So we got to battle BTDT. BTDT is the attitude, been there, done that. Now, there's a lot of people that have that attitude. And yeah, I know the boat and the teva and the destroying of the world, and everybody was corrupt, and I know, and then we're going to go to Avram Avinu, and he goes and he leaves his homeland, and he follows God, and he has the angels in front of his tent, and he circumcises himself, and the Agudas, yeah, I know it already. Okay, what else? I think this year I'm going to learn Trei Aser. That's a very childish attitude to the Torah. Asher anochi mitzavcha hayoim al levavecha, which I commanded you today upon your heart, b'chol yoim v'yoim yiyeh beinecha kachadoshes. Every day it should be new. There's no expiration date to the Torah. The Torah comes alive in the world that we live in. And it's... the more you mature, the more you see in the Torah. Ein cheker l'smunasai. There's no end to the understanding of the Torah. I'm going to just give you a for instance. For instance, I started the Torah this year right away. I always wondered, in Gemara, one of the most famous Amoraim in Gemara, and the one who we decide like because he's a Basra, and we always decide his halacha like him is Rava. And I always wondered, where is the name Rava come from? I mean, a nice name like Moshe Meir, that's... Rava? What name is a child? Rava. What's a Rava? Do you know it's the first three letters of the Torah? Beis Reish Aleph is Rava. You ever noticed that? Some Gesund. He's a captain of Torah. And for that matter, one of the most famous men in the Talmud is Rav. Those are the first two letters of the Torah. So you just start the Torah and you say, wow, I never noticed that. That's amazing. So, just to capture an idea of how you see a new perspective of the Torah. You look at it again, and we know that the Torah is learned 70 different ways, and it's Pardes, Pshat, Remez, Soy, Drush. It has so many ways and angles. So I'm just going to give you a little idea. It says, Al kein yazov ish es aviv es imay v'davak be'ishtay. A man, when he's to marry, should forsake, Al kein yazov ish es aviv es imay. That's a very harsh term. Yazov, you could say, Al kein yelech. He should go. It says Yazov, forsake. Oh, strong word. Al kein Yazov ish es aviv es imay, v'davak be'ishtay, v'hayu lebasar echad. So the simple meaning is that when it comes time to marry, he moves out of his parents' home, he cleaves to his wife, and Rashi says they become one flesh when they have children. In their child is a merging, a melding of their flesh. That's the way Rashi learns. Comes along, and again, I'm using this as an example because I want to show you how you could look at something incredibly different. One of the great Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, the leaders of Hasidus, was the Rebbe Elimelech. The Rebbe Elimelech says, let me show you how to learn a pasuk. Al Kain Yazov Ish Es Oviv. The word Oviv means what you want. Lo Avol Yami. He doesn't want to be miyabami, so then she gives chalitza. Aviv is what you're tov, what you want. The things that people know they want, they're certain about. Imai is the things that people are not sure about. If this way, if that way, I'm not sure. Al ken yazov ishes aviv es imai. Forsake. Don't rely on what you're sure about. And certainly the things that you're not as sure about, what should you do? V'davak be'ishtai. Ishtai is the first 4 words of tefillah. Hashem svasai tiftach ufi. Daven. That's what you got to do. V'hayu l'basar echad. Basar echad is 5:15, is tefillah. You know, it's interesting, the Christians, lahavdil, the religious ones, they say, I'm going to pray about it. I don't hear that from Jews. But what the Rebbe Elimelech is saying is that that's exactly what we should do. I'm going to pray about it. In Atachayin Elodim Das, I'm going to ask Hashem to give me the knowledge to know what to do. I'm going to ask Hashem in Shema Kolenu, I'm going to ask Hashem in Sim Sholem that He should let me know how to deal properly with my spouse. That's the Rebbe Elimelech. Entirely different way of looking at the pasuk. Comes along the Damesek Eliezer. Whoa! Damesek Eliezer says, let me show you something else. You know what Ishtai is? You're not going to believe this. Ishtai is Avas Torah v'Yira Shemayim. Isn't that interesting? Ishtai is Avas Torah v'Yira Shemayim. Aleph is Avas, Taf is Torah, the Vav is V'Yiras, and Shin is Shemayim. Avas Torah v'Yira Shemayim. You know what that's all about? Al Kain Yazov Ish. When a boy becomes an adult, it's a bar mitzvah. Al Kain Yazov Ish es aviv es imai. Sometimes you have to send him away to yeshiva because he stays home. He's with his little brothers and sisters. He acts like a kid. He stays home and he wastes nights and he's not immersed in Torah and Yerushalayim. Al Kain Yazov Ish es aviv es imai. Send him away to yeshiva. V'davak be'ishtai, and then he will cleave with Avas Torah v'Yerushalayim. Wow, that's what the pasuk means? Whoa! Actually, there's a medrash. I'll tell you a story. About 40 years ago, my father, Olav Hashem, was honored by Rabbi Moshe for the yeshiva Staten Island. And I was a teenager then. And they asked me to speak in my father's honor. So I had already been in yeshiva for quite a few years already. And I said that we're told that when Sari Menu passed away, so it says, Vayavo Avram lispod lisarav lifkosa. Avram came to eulogize her. So the Medrash says, where was Yitzchak? So, only son. Only son from Avram. She had him when she's 91 years old. You're going to miss her funeral? So it says he was in Yeshiva Shem Veva. There was no planes in those days. There was no way to get there. You could take a caravan, but they weren't going to hold off burying her for 30 days, 40 days. Right? So the Tferesian on the Medrash says, if you have a child after 90 years, you send him away. Avram was a Talmid Chacham. Teach him so he could stay with his mother. Send him away. And you didn't have a child. She didn't have a child for 91 years. Don't you think she deserves to enjoy the child? Says the Medrash, Maisa of a Simon Labanim, Avram wanted to put in the Jewish bloodstream, the koyach to send children away to yeshiva. It's not easy. They finally mature from being nudniks to giving you a little nachas, you can send them away. I remember that I got a chastisement. It wasn't chastisement, but I got strong musar. We used to be in yeshiva, we used to go home once a month. I came home once a month. I remember when I came home, I was visiting royalty. That's what it was. My parents missed me so much. I'm the oldest. I was visiting royalty. I liked jelly rings, and I liked sliced celery in cold water in the refrigerator. Whatever I liked, my mother had ready for me. So my father davened in the Svardish shul, in downstairs. It's what we call a balabata sheminyan. Across the street, Rav Sachs had in the 14th Aguda, Avenue Aguda, in the basement, he had a yeshiva sheminyan. So I asked Rabbi Moshe if it would be all right if I davened by Rabbi Sachs. He davened slower, it's more yeshivish. Rabbi Moshe looked at me incredulously. He says, your parents send you away an entire month, and your father is waiting to get a little nachas from his yeshiva bacher. And you want to go away? What? That was the last time I thought of doing that. But send me away they did. And because of that, I had a night seder. And in my parents' home, when we grew up, there was a television, and I was away from the television. It was a different television than today. But it was still a television. I was away from the television. That's al kain yazov ish es oviv esima. Once you're an ish, I went when I was bar mitzvah. V'davak be'ishtai. And I was davak and avas Torah v'yoshamayim. But you see what's in a pasuk? Can you say BTDT on that pasuk? Been there, done that? Do you know that I could give an entire shiur on Bereshis, just on the word Bereshis? I could keep you here till midnight just on the word Bereshis. Start telling you about Ben Rishon, Achashleishim Yom Tishre, Tipte. I could tell you about Baal of Tishre. I could tell you about Yorei Shabbos. I could tell you about Yorei Boshis. I could tell you about Amei Neshmei Rabba B'Kol I could tell you about the Bitochen and Rotzen and Avon Shtika and Yira and Torah. And I could tell I could Ashrei Bas. I could talk to you the whole night about Bereshis. But it never fails that I learn the Torah again and I see new things. It's ein cheker l'svanasa. So I like to tell people that there's a question, why does the Torah start with a base? And people aren't too upset about that question. It starts with a base because the word in the beginning starts with a base. So I tell them, well, Hashem wrote the dictionary. He could have made the real for the beginning start with an aleph. And then I told them that they could have started the Torah, Elikim bara Bereshis, and then it would have started with an aleph. So why does the Torah start with a base? So you're still not so, okay, Rabbi Weiss. I didn't come out so late in the night to hear that kind of question. I don't lose sleep over that question. You should. If you don't lose sleep over the question, you don't understand the question. Let me explain to you what I mean. The Torah is the fountain of all wisdom. All wisdom. Just we don't know it. Do you know that the gematria of Bereshis spelled whole? In other words, Beis is Beis Yud Saf, and Resh is Resh Yud Shin. And Aleph is Aleph Lamed Fei. And the way the Ben Yoyada does it is tough Aleph Vav. It's exactly 1820. So you'll say, what's the significance of that? Well, 1820, the 1820th pasuk in the Torah is the pasuk of Achodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, which Rashi says is the first instruction of the Torah. That's why Bereshis is 1820. There's nothing. We all know Reish Dvorcha Emes, right? So we know that Maseres HaDibros starts with an Aleph, and Mishnah starts with a Mem, Meir Mosai. Gemara starts with a Tov, Tana Hechakai, so that spells Emes. And we know Bereshis Bara Elokim is Seif Tevis Emes. But you want to hear something else? Rashi paralleled himself after that too. That's why the first letter in Rashi in Chumash is Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. By the way, Rabbi Yitzchak was his father. Rav Shlomo Yitzchaki was his father. That's why he wanted to be Mekayim Kibbutz of Ein. So he started his Pirush on the Torah, his monumental work, with something from his father. But he started with an Aleph. The last letter in Rashi is Yiyashu Keichacha Shishibarta, is the Saf. And the middle word in the Torah is Gochain, which is belly. Now, normally we would translate Gochain beten, but Rashi doesn't translate it beten. He translates it me'ayin. So that's a mem. So that's Aleph Mem Saf, Emes. So the beginning, middle, and end, just like Aleph Mem Saf is the beginning of the Aleph Beis, the middle of the Aleph Beis, and the end of the Aleph Beis. There's nothing, it just, anyway. So the Torah has everything. When Rosh Yeshivas want to know if they should throw a child out of yeshiva, a weighty decision, which the Chazayin Ish says you need a Bezdin of 23. Because it says in the Gemara that in order to paskin on Dinei Nefashis, you need a circuit court of 23 judges. So the Chazayin Ish says you need a Bezdin of 23 to send a child away from the yeshiva. Because that's Dinei Nefashis. The Chazayin Ish, the Chetzadik, the Rachas, Chusu Yogan Aleinu. But if a Rebbe if a Shiva wants to see in the Torah when to send away a child from yeshiva, he looks at when Avram Avinu kicked Yishmael out of the house. Oh, if he's impacting on somebody else, it's time to go. If the child in yeshiva is ruining other children, then it's time to go. Everything is in the Torah. Hafayich ba de kulaba. It's takel baraisa barama. Hashem looked in the Torah and created the world. It has everything. Oh, it has everything. It has everything. It has everything. So what did Hashem choose to teach first? Is it a lesson about treating your wife? About anger? About prayer? What did Hashem choose to teach first? Oh, the lesson he taught first is the answer to the first question in the Torah. What's the first question in the Torah? Why does the Torah start with a base? Whoa! Now all of a sudden, whoa! Now we want to know, what was the first, of all the lessons that God wanted us to learn, that the Eibishter wanted us to study, what was the first, what did he consider of paramount importance that he started his Torah with? That's the question. Why did Torah start with the base? That's the first lesson. Now it's a big question. Now we're interested. The answer is not important. No, just kidding. But, so what's the answer? So this question is asked by Yerushalmi, it's asked by the Pesikta, it's asked by Bereshis Rabbah, it's asked by the Tanchuma. They give different answers. But the first answer in all of them is the Torah starts with a base to teach you that there are two worlds. That's the number one lesson of Yiddishkeit. Two worlds. It colors all of our life. What did we do today for Olam Haba? Oh, I'm here, that's for Olam Haba. We are very wrapped up in me, myself, and I. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. I don't want to do this, I want to do that. But that's Olam Hazeh. A person has to, a Yid, the first lesson of the Torah. You want to know? You're a Ben Torah. When we embark on Torah, we want to become a Ben Torah, Bas Torah. Want to be a Ben Torah? The first lesson of a Ben Torah, Olam Haba. Olam Haba. And that's why it knocked my socks off when I saw in the Panech Raza, one of the Rishonim. Never knew this. Beresh is Bara. Bara is B'gematria 203. That's also Rava. Bara is 203. 203 is exactly B'gematria Beis HaOlamim. 2 worlds. That's what the Panech Raza says. Beresh is, in the beginning, Bara, Beis HaOlamim. 2 worlds. It's exact. 203. Check it out. Beis HaOlamim. 203. And by the way, so that's Bara Oshis. That's Bereshis. Bara's Beis HaOlamim, Oshis. Hashem placed 2 worlds. Because you learn the creation, it just talks about the sun, the moon, the fish, the simans, the Paris with the coupons and the seeds. Those doesn't say anything about the next world. So first thing you have to know is there's 2 worlds. And that's the first lesson a Jew really has to learn. That there's 2 worlds. That's of incredible paramount importance. You have to understand that I once heard by an Agudas convention, this was in the days when Rabbi Moshe and Rabbi Yaakov were alive. I remember in those days when Rabbi Moshe would come in and there would be several thousand people there on a Motzei Shabbos, and it was like a cannon. Everybody stood up. It was like such Kavod Torah. It was like, whoa! I mean, it was... So, the... Rabbi Moshe Scherer, I remember then, got up to speak, Olav Hashem. He was one of the greatest Jewish lay leaders in the history of mankind. And, you know, he once told me that 50 years he didn't miss a Moetzes Gedolei HaTorah meeting. For 50 years, until he got sick. A half a century. He sat under Rav Aaron Kotler and Rav Lezer Silver. And then he sat under Rav Moshe and Rav Yaakov and the Belizhev Rebbe. And then he sat under Rav Palm and this generation. So I remember he asked a question. I'll never forget it. He said, what is the foulest word in the Torah? So everybody was thinking, what's the foulest? Is there foul words in the Torah? So he says the foulest word in the Torah is metzachik. Because Rashi says it's avodah zarah, gilui arayos, and shvichas dam. The big 3. The worst word in the Torah. Idolatry, immorality, bloodshed, wrapped up in the word. He said Avram and Sarah had 100 years to plan a name for their child, and they gave him the name Yitzchak. They couldn't come up with a better word. And I remember he answered, he answered that the difference is in the tenses. An Arab is a metzachek, he lives to laugh now. A Yitzchak lives to laugh in the future. And that's who we are. We train ourselves that we look ahead. I have another kick that I've been on. I try to get people. I asked a kasha. It's a kasha that I saw. It's not my own question. It's a great question. It's going to bother you that you never thought of the question, if you didn't. It bothered me. I saw the question, Rav Twersky, in his Malzer on Rosh Hashanah, asks the question. He has a nice answer, but I'm going to share with you my answer. He says that when we make 4 insertions in Shemoneh Esrei during the 10 days of repentance. Kasveinu l'chaim tovim, right? Excuse me, in the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei, we say, Zachrenu l'chaim, right? V'kasveinu b'sefer ha'chaim, l'man chelikim chaim. Micha moicha over rachmim, zoicha yitzu of l'chaim b'rachmim. And then at the end of Shemoneh Esrei, we say, Uchsoiv l'chaim toivim kol b'nei brisecha, and b'sefer chaim bracha v'shom fanas toivim nizach v'nikasel v'necha anachnu v'chalam ch'beisol l'chaim toivim l'sham. So he asks, how come in the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei we say chaim? Right? Zachrenu l'chaim, melech havetz b'chaim, v'kaspein b'sefer chaim, l'man chelikim chaim. Micha moicha v'rachmim, zoicha yitzu of l'chaim b'rachmim. At the end of Shemoneh Esrei, we say chaim toivim. Right? Soiv l'chaim tovim, and b'seif chaim bracha v'sham fanas tovim nizach v'nikatzel v'necha anachnu v'chalam ch'yisol l'chaim tovim l'sham. It's a great question. In the beginning of Shemoneh Esrei we say chaim. No, Ashkenazim don't say chaim tovim. We don't say it in Yalav Yavai. We don't say it in Kaddish. We don't say it in benching. When we say Yalav Yavai in benching, we always say chaim. Right? The Svardim, Nusach Svar, says Chaim Tovim. There's a Chassam Sofer that says that the reason why Ashkenaz stays away from Chaim Tovim is because it's Rosh Tevis Chet. So we don't say Chaim Tovim, we just say Chaim. But here, everybody says Chaim in the beginning, Chaim Tovim at the end. So I want to suggest like this. And this is, again, I'm sharing with you a way of life. It's a gift. I can't keep you here too long just because I was late. I can't hold you late, but I'm going to give you a gift now. Because if we could work on this, it's a gift. And let me tell you before that I brought with me tonight the following CDs. I brought 2 marriage CDs, Marriage Workshop and Smoother Sailing in Marriage and Child Raising. That's a shiur I gave for Lev Lachem in 1996. I brought a shiur on Aleinu, I brought a shiur on Lech Lecha, and I brought the newest shiur on Noach. That I brought with me in CDs. I brought also my benchers. Now my benchers, I only bought the small one. I have one big one. I didn't even have a box of big ones. But I bought the small one. Normally I sell the small one for $15. I'm going to sell it here tonight for $10. And I brought my Pirkei Avos album. It's 12 CDs on the entire Pirkei Avos. Normally I sell it for $36. It's off season. I'm going to sell it here tonight for $30. So that's that. Also, there's some old cassettes which I brought. And there's also, if you want to subscribe to my weekly CD and get a CD every week, it's $26 a month. You could sign up and get a CD every week. I'm sending it out for 30 years with my wife every week with the help of Hashem. So that's a good way to really get connected with me. Now, here's my feeling. There are people that no matter what they have, they're always complaining. My favorite story about this, and it's a true story, is I was with somebody in a hotel. And at the hotel, literally, there was gefilte fish, carp, salmon. For soup, there was consommé, egg drop soup, matzo ball soup, lokshen soup. Then there was flanken, boiled chicken, capon, duck, a vegetable plate. Then there was a jelly tart and compote and assorted cookies and jello and a tea. You know what the person said to me? I can't believe there was no crane on the table. And he was carrying on about it. I pay so much money and there's no horseradish. I can't believe they run such a joint. And he stewed about it. It ruined his night. Now, that's not an isolated incident. There are people that they have their own children's wedding, what people would do to marry off a child. By their children's wedding, the photographer didn't get a certain sequence. And the whole night is ruined. I can't believe it. They left already. We didn't get that picture. I can't believe it. We'll never get it again. We shouldn't have used this photographer. That's what they're carrying. They're marrying off a child. And the whole night they're carrying.
Sorry, I'm not sure what
See what I mean? You see what I mean? Even technology is that way. He doesn't work for me, don't worry. What does this have to do with Chaim and Chaim Tovim? Only after we say Moedim can we say Chaim Tovim. If a person has an attitude of Moedim, a person realizes how fortunate they are every moment of the day, that their heart is not giving them problems, and they don't have floater in front of their eyes, and they're not on dialysis, and their knees aren't buckling, and they don't have vertigo, and they don't have asthma, and they don't have diabetes, and they're not going home to machlokes in the house, and the house isn't being foreclosed upon. Only if a person is able to say Moedim does he have a Chaim Tovim. Before that, even with all the money in the world, it's only Chaim. Now, I hold that this is a very important. In Koheles, Shlomo HaMelech says a pasuk, and it became a motto of mine. I think about this pasuk all the time. What does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, "Hachacham einov b'roshai." The wise person, his eyes are in his head. What does that mean? What does that mean? So I'm going to tell you a pshat. There are a lot of pshat. You know what the Metzudah says pshat is? An interesting pshat. The wise person realizes that it's a great gift that his eyes are in his head, because if our eyes would be lower down, we would bump into trees. Because we wouldn't see them. So the Chacham realizes it's a great gift that his eyes are in his head. That's the way the Metzudah learns. Don't even try playing tennis if your eyes were in your stomach. Right? So, but I want to tell you a beautiful pshat in a Chacham Einov B'Roshai. There are people that something goes wrong now, they stew about it and their day is ruined. They just can't get past it because they only see what's now. The Chacham doesn't just see with his eyes. She knows this will pass. This will pass. Okay, I wanted to eat this, I'm not getting it. Tomorrow will be a good breakfast. Okay, you know, they don't just see now. They ain't of a bereshai. They see with their head. They don't get caught up just in the moment. People that get caught up in the moment, they stew on it and it ruins their life. I know people, I see it. There's a person comes to shul, it's either too hot or too cold. It's too quiet or too noisy. There's too many people or it's like a tomb. I mean, he always has a problem. The chazan is too fast. He's too slow. He's not singing. He's kvetching. I mean, the man is a dictionary of problems. There are a lot of people like that. And they're not happy. To me, it's a great sadness. I see people, it's a very big thing. You want to have children, you know, now, a lot of our, especially our girls, are savvy daters. And one of the things that they look for in a prospective husband is simchas hachayim. You want your children to have simchas achayim, then you got to get off the complaining bandwagon. Because that's not the way to raise children with simchas achayim, or grandchildren with simchas achayim. You just can't do it. It has to be eina b'roishay, not just over here. Yeah, this isn't exactly the way you wanted it. You go to a simcha, I don't want to sit at this table. There'll be other simchas. Take a sefer along, and worst comes to worst, you'll learn a little bit. It could be the end of it, you know. It could be Mava Sedra, you know. Serious. Don't forget that Mava Sedra. I'm telling you. I mean, if you're not interested in Arichas Yamim V'Shanim, it's not for you. But if Arichas Yamim V'Shanim is something that you, but again, if you're always complaining, it might not be Kedai. But it's an attitude. And that's what the Gra, and with this I'll conclude. You've been very patient with me. I thought at least you'd throw tomatoes. See, if the speaker is not lucky that you throw a sragim. Tomatoes are soft, you know. You didn't even throw it, you probably didn't have it. That's why you didn't throw it. The Goin says, Pshat in the Pasuk, Kol Yemei Ani Roim. All the days of the poor are bad. He says, what's Pshat? So the novice says, I know what Pshat is. All the days of a poor man is bad. In the winter, he can't afford heat. In the summer, he can't afford air conditioning. His mattress is terrible. He doesn't have a duxie on a bed or anything like that, right? He can't afford food. It's always bad. The guy says that's not pshat, probably because then that would refer to only a certain segment of the population. He says that it refers to everybody. He says, what's an usher? An usher is an attitude, hasameach b'chalkai, somebody who is satisfied with what they have. So he says, kol yemei ani is the opposite, somebody who's always complaining. Kol yemei ani ran. Somebody that's always complaining every day is bad. There's something wrong. I have a headache, I have indigestion. It's too cold, the neighbors are making too much noise. I can't believe it that it's raining outside. The humidity is terrible. There's snow on the ground. There's no parking. Kol yemei ani ran. All the days of an ani, somebody that doesn't have this attitude of sameach b'chelkai, somebody who doesn't have einav b'roisha, doesn't look with the head, but looks just with the eyes. Somebody who could have a 12-course meal, but only focus on the lack of horseradish. That's a true story, by the way. That's a poor person. And we have to ask ourselves, if we're that way, we have to stop stewing and start enjoying. And one of the remedies, by the way, but people are too morbid to do it, is to visit some hospitals and go to some wards and then walk down the aisles of cemeteries and see the people that passed away at 36 and 42 and feel glicklich that a person is happy and healthy and feel rich, and not to get tied up on the fact that I wanted that dress, but they sold all of them in my size. The world's not fair at all. I just don't believe it that they made Shacharis 10 minutes earlier than I wanted it. The world is coming to an end. May it be the will of Hashem, first of all, that we take a fresh attitude to the Torah. Because believe me, you look at it, I can't resist it. One more thing. Ki mala haaretz chamas. The world is full of corruption. Lo nechtam gzar din ela ala gezem. With all the heinous crimes of immorality, perversion, idolatry, Gezel did it? Yeah. Because Aveira Shebein Adam Lamakam the death of the tzaddik, Mr. Shelach, would have been a kapara. But sins between us and our fellow man, it doesn't help suffering. And Yom Kippur, you have to make up. And this was not a generation that made up. It was an arrogant, brazen generation that didn't ask mechila. It's the Bein Adam Chavera that does us in. But notice that it says chamas. It doesn't say gezel. You know what chamas is? Gezel is when you steal. Chamas is when you pay, but you strong-arm someone to sell it to you. That's very contemporary. We live in a generation of bullies. People bully Rabbanim out of their shtelers. You know, there's a Rav in New Haven, Connecticut now. He was there for 35 years. He's being pushed out of his kehillah because the shul claims they don't have money to pay him after 35 years of dedicated service, and they're trying to bilk him of his pension. A president came in, altered and doctored up the constitutions, but that's chamas. That's chamas. Chamas is when a yeshiva doesn't take a child because the parents are just plain, they don't have money, they don't have any connections. That's chamas. That's chamas. Chamas is when a son takes over from his aging father the business and pushes out all the old employees because he wants to get cheaper, younger faces. That's chamas. Chamas is when a wife with a bunch of children walks away from her husband because she's been told that she could do better. And a husband disappears from his wife because he wants a prettier, younger model. That's chamas. It's a world full of chamas. It's scary. Now, did everybody in Noach's generation do that? Maybe not. But those that didn't do it didn't stop those that did it. And that's why I'm telling you this. You see something wrong, don't just cluck sympathetically, but I have my own problems. Anybody that's able to protest and doesn't is nitfas ba'oisa oven. You see a wrong being done, you got to speak up. Well, you know, I can't. If they didn't do anything about it, well, I'm going to say I'm just a little guy. You know. You see a wrong, you see somebody being wrong, you got to speak up. I don't want to get carried away now. This is another thing that I carried away with. You've been wonderful. I'm sorry again that I was late. Let me end with a bracha. Then in the schus of us coming to learn, may we have the blessings of Torah, of Oirech Yomim B'Yamina, B'Smeila Oisha V'Chavod. We should have gesund, know that we're healthy, Shalom Bayis, Parnasa B'Rev B'Kavod, good Shidduchim, Nachas from the children, and we should be zeichet to be a skilled tzedek b'mher v'yameinu. Thank you. The CDs are available, Marriage, Aleinu, Noach, the CDs are $5, still the same price as 30 years ago. You could sign up for weekly CDs. The Power Benching is available. The Pirkei Avos album is available. That's a great thing. 12 CDs for $30 and a beautiful album. Chanani Menakasha. Well, we have the women here, so
we would like to thank Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss, even though that was the last minute of invitation that he joined us. Mr. Rav is an old friend of the neighborhood. Used to come to us every Motzei Shabbos. We should be zochet to have him every Motzei Shabbos again. And also, you should know the program of Chazak is all over. Chazak is an organization. It's not just the shiurim that you see. They're helping more than 5,000 kids that they are in high school and they're out of derech, and they're try to bring them over. So please make sure that you would support the Chazak. You can write the checks to Chazak organization. And also tomorrow night, B'ezras Hashem, Rabbi Olbam is speaking here, and also Wednesday morning also. Shkoyach.